Hey guys, it's Rita Hill again. I just wanted to walk through a few tips, about 6 tips to help you as you start to think about your final project. If I were you, I'd go through these steps. So basically, what we're going to do, as I've mentioned several times before, is come up with an idea for creating a future facing venture. And here are some tips on how to do that in 6 easy steps. First of all, decide your ideation area and discuss it as a group. I mean, there's so much that you can get into, but you want to make sure that you're all on the same page when it comes to your ideation area. So, what do I mean by that? Basically, you want to make sure that you are thinking about the various areas in which you can come up with some future facing ideas. Whether you want to incorporate robotics in providing news and information or messaging or public relations to people. What about using the concept of digital twinning? Another one is to integrate augmented reality in a unique way into future media businesses. Or perhaps you want to integrate virtual reality in a mind blowing way, or incorporate next gen TV capabilities. You'll find out about all of these, but I'm kind of giving you a heads up. The next thing that you definitely want to do is to check out all the adjacent industries to see what they're doing and adapt that for media. As you get into this course, we'll talk about the importance of checking out all the industries that are adjacent to what we're doing. For example, what are the big tech companies doing? What are science fiction writers in Hollywood thinking about or trying to promote? What about the US military or the military in other countries, in Israel, in Europe, in Nigeria, in South Africa? What about the games, entertainment, and amusement park industry? And of course, artificial intelligence and XR, which is VR, AR, extended reality startups. What are they doing? They're always up to something, and it's where I get a lot of my great ideas. You also want to check the fringe to see what the geeks and freaks are doing. I love geeks and freaks because they're always pushing the envelope. Don't dismiss those edgy folks who are coming up with stuff that you think might be a little off the charts. Are people getting a little too close to robots? There's always that person who's trying to marry a robot. Are they building avatar versions of loved ones who've passed away? Are they automating everything in their houses, even their toilets or their food preparation? Are they inserting chips in their bodies? Okay, when they come up with the chips that I can put in my wrist and not have to remember passwords, I think I might be one of those freaks and geeks. Are they preparing to live in a completely augmented reality world? I started watching Upload not too long ago. It's okay, but just the idea of being able to transport your consciousness into an augmented reality world is kind of interesting. Is there other stuff out there that, seems to be on the edge, but can give you ideas in terms of where things are going? Then what you should do with your group is come up with lots and lots of ideas. Do it in a group chat and go big. Just come up with really brilliant, big, crazy ideas. You can always pull back later in the process. I remember a few years ago, one of my students in a graduate school setting, we were trying to come up with a way to protect women from sexual assault. And I remember Corbin said, too bad we can't put a force field around women. From there, several of the young ladies came up with an iteration to build using geofencing a force field around young ladies so when they go out for the evening, they can let several friends know where they're going. And then that force field was a geofencing where you could see, or their friends could see, where the person and their phone was at any moment. Now, this was about 8 years ago, so that was pretty heady stuff back in the day, but it came from his comment about building a force field around women. Always start with people. Later on in the course, we'll get into human centered design, but you always want to ask yourself over and over again, who can this help? What human need are we addressing? Does this concept speak to a trend, or is it just trendy? Is it a trendy phase? For example, if you come up with stuff around COVID right now, that might be a trendy phase, or does it speak to the needs that are more long term? We're going to get into all of this later, but I'm kind of giving you some heads up so that you can start thinking about your project. You also want to start with people in terms of what is the minimal thing we can test right now that might point to where this concept can go later on. Some of the things that you know you want to get to, like building a community on Mars, well, you can't do that right now, but we might think about what are some of the technology, what are some of the concepts, what are some of the ways we need to live that could later become part of living on Mars. So you need to like really think ahead, but then pull yourself back to an MVP, a minimally viable product that you can build right now. Also, remember the types of innovation. We'll get into that later, but there are several different types of innovation. And of course, we're going to explore even some of those, such as future facing, sustaining innovation. It's okay to come up with that. Future facing incremental innovation. It's okay to come up with a business that incorporates those concepts. And of course, future facing disruptive innovation is more than okay, but it's hard to come up with disruptive innovation. Whatever you use in whichever type of innovation that you come up with, just take it to a different level. Please, I beg of you, no more an app for this or an app for that. We don't want to come up with a clone of Yelp. We don't want to come up with a clone of Facebook or Instagram. Just think about what will people be doing 5 years, 10 years, 12 years from now, and try to think about future facing ideas. Think outside of the box. Be able to explain your concept in a sentence. If your loved one, if your kid, if your spouse, if your partner came up to you and said, hey, what you working on? You should be able to explain that concept in a sentence, maybe two, but you should be able to boil it down. So know all of these things that you should be working on because it'll be your path to success. Know your arena, know what problem you're trying to solve, make sure you've checked adjacent industries, and you've definitely looked at the fringe of the freaky people who are doing crazy things. Make sure that you've figured out a possible trend, not something that's just happening today and could disappear at any point, and try to punch holes in your own concept. Be supportive of each other. And if you do all of this, I'm sure you're going to come up with something that is unique, future facing, and will get you that A. Talk to you soon. Bye.